Lose shelter, freeze, lose water, die, lose your footing in enemy land, disappear. That was the brutal truth for Native American tribes. They hunted across ice, read storms in an owl's eye, drew water from bone-dry earth, and built homes that defied blizzards, war, and time. How did they endure where others failed? What wisdom did they hold that modern survivalists still seek? And which vital lessons could save your life? Join us as we uncover 7 survival secrets that made Native American tribes resilient and unbeatable. We start with the bedrock, shelter. Number 7, shelter survival begins with cover. No roof means no rest. Native tribes didn't just build shelters, they built armor against nature's fury. In the northeast woods, Iroquois longhouses were ribbed timber frames covered in bark, communal heat traps for dozens, weathering blizzards with shared warmth and smart design, built to last through storms, freezes, and time. Eastward, Algonquian wigwams rose low and fast, sapling domes sheathed in bark or reeds, shedding rain and holding heat low. Quick to build from forest scraps, not flashy, but clever. Stay low, stay warm, stay hidden. On the Great Plains, where wind cut like knives, Sioux and Cheyenne teepees were nomadic architecture. Hide cones over poles, venting smoke, warm in winter, cool in summer. Fast up, fast down, moving with the herds, efficient and elegant. The Southwest's heat and thirst met the Hopi and Zuni pueblos, thick mud and stone built into cliffs or mesas, naturally climate-controlled and defensible. Shelter became fortress. In the Great Basin's extremes, Shoshone and Paiute wickiups were adaptable, disposable domes of brush and grass, whatever the land offered, no blueprint, just instinct, speed, and adaptability. And in the Arctic, where wood was fantasy, the Inuit turned snow into shelter, the igloo, spiraling blocks trapping body heat against the raging wind. Brutal cold became cover. These were more than homes. They were survival strategies. Lessons etched in every design. Know your environment. Use what it gives. Build smart. Live smarter. With shelter secured, you need sustenance. Number 6, foraging calories. Foraging wasn't a hobby. It was life itself. Tribes possessed an intimate knowledge of the land. Every plant, root, berry, its season, its use, its danger. In the Pacific Northwest, Salish and Lekwungen women expertly harvested edible camas bulbs, knowing the toxic lookalikes, timing the bloom, and slow roasting them in earth pits to make nutrients accessible. To them, camas was currency. Alaskan Athabascans gathered berries and vital Eskimo potatoes, combating scurvy through long, dark winters. On the plateau, Nez Perce and Yakima followed nature's clock, harvesting bitterroot, huckleberries, and koos, carbs from the earth, drying or cooking them in earth ovens for storage. The Southwest Apache and Navajo turned cacti into sustenance and medicine, prickly pear pads and fruit providing greens and relief. Plains tribes like the Lakota found prairie turnips, a true survival staple alongside wild onions, peeled, eaten raw, or dried. And back east, Iroquois and Cherokee processed acorns and hickory nuts, leaching toxins or extracting energy-rich oils, high-energy fuel for the cold. The wild offered abundance. If you knew how to find, prepare, and respect it. You can stretch a meal, but you can't fake. Number 5. Water lack of clean water? A death sentence within days. Native tribes understood this absolute truth and mastered water acquisition. In the arid Southwest, the Hohokam didn't wait for rain. They engineered it, building miles of complex canals to reroute rivers for agriculture, a feat of engineering without modern tools. The Tohono O'odham practiced ak chin, planting crops in floodplains after flash floods, a low-tech, high-yield method. When rivers vanished, they dug into sandy creek beds, knowing that water often flowed unseen beneath the surface, a slow, vital trickle for another day. In forests and mountains, they became expert observers, reading birds, insects, and plants like willows, which signaled hidden springs and seeps. Animal tracks became maps to water sources. Nature's clues were everywhere, for those who knew how to see. Finding water was just the start. Making it safe was paramount. Clear water was drunk directly, while murky sources were filtered using sand, charcoal, or bark. Some used silver vessels, a practical sanitation method long before germ theory. Navajo ingenuity preserved water in pine resin-sealed clay pots, ancient tech still relevant today. They didn't just find water, they understood its flow, its hidden places, and how to make it sustain life. They'd stoop low, pressing moss to damp stones, where dew clung like it couldn't bear to leave rock and leaf. The Navajo expertly extracted every drop from the cool morning. In scorching lands, they cleverly harnessed the sun, digging a pit, lining it with bark, and adding leaves or moist earth. Covered, the sun would draw out moisture, yielding a sparse but precious trickle of clean water. Sometimes just a few sips meant survival. When no streams were nearby, they chewed water-rich desert roots, like agave or yucca, an unpleasant but effective way to keep the mouth wet and body functional. Rainwater was especially valuable, collected in animal hides, woven baskets, or pottery jars. In arid grasslands, a patient method involved tying cloth to their legs, walking through morning dew, and wringing out the accumulated moisture. Tedious labor, yes, but it sustained life. Another technique used cleaned deer stomachs as portable, non-sloshing canteens. The water wasn't pure, but it was available, often enough. They also learned, crucially, that bees indicate nearby water. Following their flight or the trails of ants often led to a source. For most, water was deeply sacred. The Cherokee revered the river as Long Man, symbolizing its journey from mountains to ocean. They performed ritual baths for spiritual as well as physical cleansing. Incidentally, for more tales of the old wild, we have episodes on harsh winters, wilderness injuries, and those who endured, and those who didn't. But with food and water covered, let's look at protection from the elements. Number 4, clothing. Native tribes engineered their clothing for function, resisting cold, navigating brush, moving swiftly, and staying alive. Each piece was deliberate. Every hide served a purpose. This proven, practical gear was so effective, even mountain men adopted its design principles. Up north, in the unforgiving Arctic, the Inuit and Yupik dressed to survive. Caribou hides, light and insulating with hollow hairs, were crafted into parkas, pants, and mittens. Sealskin, windproof and water-resistant, was ideal for durable boots. On the Great Plains, tribes like the Lakota and Cheyenne wore buckskin, scraped and softened deer hide. It became shirts, leggings, and moccasins. Buckskin was breathable, shed rain efficiently, and didn't snag easily. Fringes weren't merely decorative. They helped water run off and allowed garments to dry faster. Buckskin also provided camouflage, helping hunters blend into the landscape. Unsurprisingly, frontiersmen quickly copied these practical designs. In the dense, variable forests of the Northeast, Iroquois and Algonquin used layered deerskin, thin for agility, thick for warmth. Moccasins provided silent footing, allowing hunters to move like shadows through the leaves. In the Southwest, with its extreme temperature swings, The Navajo and Hopi utilized cotton and later wool. They spun these materials into breathable shirts and substantial blankets, using layers to adapt from scorching days to freezing nights. On the perpetually wet northwest coast, the Tlingit and Haida leveraged available resources, softened cedar bark and mountain goat wool. These materials made skirts and robes that handled constant rain and biting cold. With suitable clothing addressed, the next critical skill was securing food. Number 3. Hunting before firearms, before horses, before established roads. Hunting was a form of warfare for native tribes. On the plains, the coveted prize was the bison, powerful, fast, and impossible for one person to fell. Tribes hunted not alone, but strategically. The buffalo jump was a prime example, succeeding through intellect and effort, not bullets. The process involved a young, swift, brave individual acting as a decoy, dressed in a bison hide. Crouching low, they'd mimic a distressed calf's cry, drawing the herd's instinctual attention. Behind the herd, hunters in wolfskins would create noise and commotion, driving the animals into a panic. They fanned out in a V-shape, guiding the stampeding herd down a narrowing lane, funneling them toward the cliff, the Pishkin. The lead bison would go over the edge, too late to stop, and the rest followed. Gravity did the killing. This was high stakes. One mistake by the decoy, one bull turning prematurely, and the hunt yielded nothing. But a successful jump provided vast resources: meat for months, hides for shelter, bones for tools, sinew for cordage, sustaining an entire village. Where cliffs weren't present, tribes constructed impounds, large corrals of timber and brush, sometimes 15 feet high, with long chutes leading into them. Using similar decoying and driving tactics, they'd force bison into the enclosure, closing the gap before using arrows. Precise timing and structural integrity were crucial. A panicked bull could break free if the setup wasn't right. Hunters had to act in perfect coordination. George Catlin, an observer of 19th century tribal life, accurately described it. They have learned the habits of the bison so well that they govern the herd not with brute strength, but by mimicking its language. The prey also included bighorn sheep, swift, agile masters of cliff faces, impossible to simply chase. The Tukudika outsmarted them by building spiral traps, stone or brush walls forming a downward funnel on slopes. Hunters from above would startle sheep upwards into the narrowing spiral, ending at a single ledge, a dead end, leading to a quick, clean kill. In Nevada's marshlands near Lovelock Cave, birds were hunted using cunning bait, lifelike duck decoys crafted from reeds and feathers. Hunters concealed themselves in reed blinds or submerged themselves, with only their weapons visible, luring real ducks to their doom. Some of these decoys, perfected millennia ago, predate European muskets by centuries. No part of an animal was wasted. Bones became tools, needles, hooks, and handles. Tendons served as bowstrings. Stomachs carried water. Survival didn't rely on technology, no scopes or rangefinders, just honed instinct, silence, and deep environmental knowledge. These were survival blueprints at their finest. If this sparked your interest, explore our other deep dives into real frontier survival on our channel. For now, the hunt is complete. But survival demanded more. Could you interpret the sky? Find your way before a storm hit? Number 2, navigation and weather. Across the vast North American wilderness, native tribes possessed an intimate understanding of location and impending weather. Navigation predated modern tools entirely. Long before maps or compasses, tribes created enduring trail markers by bending young hardwoods, forcing them to grow at unnatural angles pointing towards water, shelter, or significant places. These signs remained visible through thick foliage or snow, intentionally placed for future generations. Weather prediction was critical. Misjudging conditions on the plains or in the Arctic could be fatal. Tribes observed everything: wind, sky, and animals, learning patterns indicating trouble. The Omaha listened for the curlew's call at dawn. Its cry signaled clear skies. The Sioux saw a gray owl's screech as a frost warning. Foggy mornings often preceded storms. Thin corn husks or loose bark on trees suggested a mild winter, but heavy muskrat lodges, early bird swarming, or thick buffalo grass seeds warned of a harsh one. Northern tribes believed animal coats foretold winter severity. Thick, fast-growing fur meant deep snow was coming. Even stars held meaning. The Osage read comets and planets for future signs. Arctic Inuit needed neither trees nor stars, navigating by wind patterns, snowdrift shapes, sastrugi, and tracking animal movements, knowing food followed the herds. For Alaskan tribes like the Chugach, sky watching was vital. Low-flying birds or marine life moving inland unequivocally signaled an approaching storm. Native tribes perceived seasons as a living clock, each with distinct markers. The first nighthawk cry announced spring, signaling time for the buffalo hunt. The Lakota named May's first full moon the planting moon, when the soil was ready for seeds. Swollen buck antlers meant berries were ripe. By the August moon, cherries and wild plums were ready. In the Northeast, simple, reliable weather sticks of balsam or birch curled down in damp air and twisted up when it dried. Mississippian tribes wove this survival knowledge into stories, teaching children about storms and frost through myths, effectively survival manuals. And contrary to the idea that oral tradition was their sole record, Northern Plains tribes kept winter counts, marking a single significant event each year in pictures on buffalo hides, creating centuries-spanning timelines, a form of historical study and observation. This deep bond with the land, sky, and time resulted in hyper-local weather sense, often surpassing early modern forecasts. While the sky indicated when, the ground revealed everything else. Number 1. Tracking Native American trackers read the land as readily as a book. A snapped twig wasn't random. A scuffed rock told a story. Every sign was meaningful. Across the continent, tracking was fundamental to survival. For hunting, evasion, scouting, failing to read the signs meant not surviving long. Footprints offered extensive data. Skilled trackers estimated animal size, gait, speed, and time elapsed. Damp soil with sharp print edges meant a fresh trail. Dry and crumbling indicated it was old. Some could even date horse trails by scent. More subtly, the position of urine in a horse track could indicate the rider's sex, as women often rode mares. This level of detail was literally life or death. The best trackers adapted instantly to terrain: snow, sand, rock, forest, each changing how prints appeared and faded. A snow print might vanish quickly, while wet leaves held shape longer. Specialist groups like the shadow wolves of the Tohono O'odham Nation were masters, cutting for sign, searching for the faintest clue, a snagged fiber, a subtle disturbance in dust. These were difficult, cold reads. Tracking wasn't just a skill, it was a code, involving moving in harmony with the land and showing it respect, viewed by some as spiritual, by others as discipline. Either way, it was effective. When Europeans arrived, many were lost, cold, and ill-equipped for the wilderness, and many perished. Survivors often did so by partnering with native tribes, learning hunting, tracking, and wilderness navigation. Over time, settlers adopted tracking for hunting and defense. In conflict, tracking became tactical, following enemy trails through difficult terrain to engage them. By the 17th and 18th centuries, this blend of frontier experience and native expertise influenced the British Army, leading to colonial ranger units, irregulars skilled in tracking, ambush, and wilderness warfare, distinct from conventional soldiers. Figures like Robert Rogers formalized these methods in his Rules of Ranging, foundational texts for modern special operations. Native scouts continued to serve throughout subsequent conflicts, tracking for both sides in the Civil War, pursuing Pancho Villa, and famously using their languages as code talkers in World War II, applying ancient knowledge to modern warfare. Renowned scout Frederick Russell Burnham learned from native trackers, studying not just physical signs, but also cultural context, tradition, and belief. Understanding the world that created the tracks was key to following them. The last official native scout retired in 1947, but the skill endures. Combat tracking, understanding enemy movement, anticipating actions, and preempting them remains a vital, sharp, and deadly skill. Tracking is ancient, predating language itself. Early humans followed animals based on instinct. This instinct evolved, and for the tribes who perfected it, it became a crucial advantage, keeping them fed, safe, and alive.